Greetings all, welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we review the Dungeons & Dragons miniatures created by WOTC and WizKids in the 20 years between 2003 and 2023. With this video, we start with a new grouping of creatures, collectively known as Outsiders. From angels to devils to all the various inhabitants of the Outer Planes, there are almost 300 individual minis that fall into this category, so we got a few to get through. Let's get to it. Aasimars are human-based, plane-touched beings, descended from Celestials and generally, but not always, predisposed to goodness. Ungodly beautiful, many are immediately identifiable by features small, such as golden eyes, up to, a pair of angel wings sprouting from their backs. Abilities are as varied as appearances, often depending on which type of Celestial they are descended from. Tread cautiously until true powers are revealed.
We get our first Aasimar in WotC's 6th set, 2004's Aberrations. Called an Aasimar Favored Soul, by title alone you can assume he is formidable in combat. To me, he is giving off cleric vibes, standing tall with arms raised high above his head, as if either casting a spell or turning undead. The mace in his left hand is also a typical clerical weapon. His snow-white cloak really stands out against leather armor, close examination of which reveals what looks like a lion's head worked into the chest. Score: Paint 15, Pose 13, Playability 17, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 62. We get a more militaristic Aasimar 2 years later in 2006's War of the Dragon Queen set. Called simply enough an Aasimar fighter, he, could be a she, is completely covered in chain and plate. I'm guessing a leader of some sort, pointing out his battle plan while his longsword remains sheathed at his back, easily within reach if needed. Looking back at the armor, it really is nicely done. I like the flourishes at the belt and left shoulder. Score: Paint 12, Pose 12, Playability 14, Pizzazz 19, for a score of 57. 12 years go by before we get another Aasimar mini. Then WizKids decided to release 2 in the Monster Menagerie 3 set of 2018, along with an invisible version. Called Aasimar Paladins, both these rare miniatures are quite striking. They obviously lean more towards their angelic side, with the large translucent wings sprouting from their back. Both are armed with twin longswords, but while the one in the brown tunic has to be content with boring old regular swords, her sister in the blue tunic has one that is engulfed in flame. Nice facial detailing on both. Did you notice the rune tattooed in the middle of their foreheads? Score: Paint 17, Pose 22, Playability 15, Pizzazz 21, for a score of 75. Our final Aasimar mini comes 4 years later in 2022's Mordenkainen Presents Monsters of the Multiverse set. While it is simply called Aasimar, this guy gives off definite magic user vibes, with the red robes and the outstretched arms with the staff gripped in his right hand. Note the red jewel set at the top. And, oh yeah, a very impressive set of red translucent wings to match the robes. So, while we don't get a large amount of Aasimar minis, there are enough to create a traveling party, say one favored soul, cleric, a couple Aasimar fighters, plus a paladin and this guy. Formidable. Score: Paint 20, Pose 18, Playability 15, Pizzazz 24, for a score of 77.
Between the Order of Mechanus and the Evil of the Nine Hells sits the plain of Acheron, the native habitat of the Achairai. These giant flightless birds are utterly evil, enjoy torturing their foes. They're also quite intelligent, able to converse with their prey while they rend away with their 4-taloned feet. Fun fact, to kill an Achairai, you have to strike the body, but if enough damage is done to the legs, it will retreat while spewing a toxic gas that causes its foes to go mad.
We get our one and only Achairai mini in 2004's Aberration set, and it's a rare to boot, making it very hard to acquire a flock. Which is too bad, because it's a very good looking mini, from the parrot-like head with open beak, down to the 4 spiked legs with wicked looking claws. Coloring is quite distinct as well, orange for the head, yellow for the back feathers, and brown for the body and, how cute, stubby little wings. Score: Paint 23, Pose 20, Playability 10, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 78.
Angels are lawful good denizens of the upper planes. There are generic angels, such as divas, planetars, and solars, as well as special angels, such as angels of valor or vengeance. Divas are the weakest of the angels, relatively speaking, only a step above Aasimar's. Often found in the service of deities, oftentimes acting as messengers for the gods. They do love a good fight, though, fearlessly attacking evil where and when they find it.
We get our first diva, called a Diva Fanatic, in WOTC's last set, 2010's Lords of Madness. It's okay, I guess, but I'm not blown away. Pose swinging a golden morning star, I do like how it curls behind his head. Clad in rich robes of red and gold, but I gotta say, the wings are seriously unimpressive. And what's with the Fu Manchu mustache? Score: Paint 18, Pose 14, Playability 12, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 58. It's funny how we got our first diva in WOTC's last set and our second in WizKids' first. From 2014's Tyranny of Dragons set comes this Movanic Diva Angel. Movanic divas are the most common to see on the prime material plane, sent by the gods to prominent followers in times of need. Pose is perfect, wings fully outstretched, toned body properly displayed, divas aren't much for clothing, and ready to bring his golden hammer down in righteous vengeance. Score: Paint 20, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 87. Our final diva comes 7 years later in 2021's Snowbound set, and I gotta say, it's even better than the last one. As before, it's posed mid-flight, but on a much sturdier base and in a much more kinetic pose, leaning forward with loincloth billowing behind, wings in position for a powerful downstroke, and two-handed mace ready to strike. I really like both the dark wash on the wings that brings out the detailing, as well as the hint of gold in them. They're all nicely offset by the blue body. Score: Paint 25, Pose 25, Playability 20, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 95.
Next up in the angelic hierarchy are the planetar, defenders of truth and avengers of the fallen righteous. Almost certainly the specialized angels of retribution and valor come from their ranks. Immensely powerful, it would probably be easier to list what they can't do. I don't think they have a breath weapon, but I wouldn't bet against it.
We get our only planetar angel in 2017's Monster Menagerie 2 set. WizKids makes the decision to use a crooked stand to attach the mini to the base by its back. It's not the sturdiest of choices. The pose is great, wings outstretched and cup in the air while the body's in the Superman up, up, and away position, sword held out out to the side. Body and face reminds me a bit of Dr. Manhattan from The Watchmen, though. Score: Paint 18, Pose 23, Playability 15, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 76.
Solars are the most powerful of angels, bordering on godlike in their abilities. They often serve as the direct hand of the god they owe allegiance to. Feared by all that are evil, even powerful demon lords or archdevils think twice before facing off against one. They are so powerful that sages believe there are no more than a handful of solars in existence.
We get 2 solars, one from each manufacturer. WOTC's comes to us in the Blood Wars set of 2006. Properly armed with both the great sword that can fight independently and a composite bow that can enchant any arrow into an arrow of slaying. Pose has him standing at the ready, namesake sword to the front. Side note, I'm not sure, but I think this is the first use of translucent plastic for a miniature. Note the blue sword blade. The grays of the body and tunic, along with the dirty white of the wings, tend to blend in a bit, but all in all, solid. Score: Pain 18, Pose 13, Playability 13, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 61. We get WizKids version 9 years later in the 2015's Elemental Evil set. The fact that it's set on a small stand to give the appearance of hovering, along with the height of the wingtips, gives the illusion that it's bigger than the WOTC version, but it really isn't. I do really like the detailing on the wings, though. I do wish that it had the bow, along with the sword, as the WOTC version does. It just doesn't seem right without a bow. Score: Pain 18, Pose 16, Playability 13, Pizzazz 16, for a score of 63.
First up with the specialized angels is the Angel of Valor, the most numerous but weakest of this angelic subtype, serving as the frontline foot soldiers of their respective deities. They are typically clad in chainmail and wield long swords and daggers.
Both our Angel of Valor miniatures come from WOTC, starting with this one from 2008's Dungeons of Dread set. First off, I really like the metallic look of its wings. Fully outstretched as they are, they could easily be used as another edged weapon. The requisite chainmail, longsword, and dagger is present, but I do wish that the facial detailing was better. Score: Pain 18, Pose 21, Playability 15, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 72. We get our second WOTC version a year later in 2009's Monster Manual Savage Encounter set. This one is much closer in appearance to the book art. I love how the use of the translucent column of orange fire is used to pose it in midair. It matches the wingtips, ready to strike with its fiery longsword. His blood red armor looks more plate than chain, but I'll allow it. Finally, it's an uncommon, making it much easier to get a host together. I got 5. Score: Pain 15, Pose 25, Playability 23, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 88.
Angels of Vengeance are exactly as their name implies, angels sent by their gods to punish those who have angered or defied them. Blazing with an internal light, they single-mindedly attack their target with no concern for others. They will cut down anyone, including loyal followers, to get to their target.
That being said, our first version from 2005's Underdark set looks nothing like it should. She is Rika, Angelic Avenger. She is one of the more dynamic poses we've ever seen, her entire body tilting far to the right, doubtlessly relying on her wings to keep her upright, while she prepares an overhead strike with her sword. And I'm glad she takes her armor so seriously, we wouldn't want her to suffer any shin injuries. I love how WOTC goes full Frank Frazetta here. WizKids would never have the balls to do this. Score: Paint 17, Pose 22, Playability 12, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 76. Two years later, we get a much more appropriate Angel of Vengeance in 2007's Desert of Desolation set. posed and profiled as it sweeps towards its mark, flaming longsword held high above his head. Metallic wings similar to the ones on the first Angel of Valor almost masks that it is carrying a shield. Bright silver plate over the translucence of the body is very cool, as are the flashes of gold on the wingtips. Score: Paint 15, Pose 18, Playability 15, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 68. Our final version is the best, which is ironic because it's named an Angel of Retribution, but look at the book art and look again, this is an Angel of Vengeance. It is from the Against the Giants set of 2008, and it's amazing. Rising from the base on a dark, wispy lower body, he stands impervious in his silver armor, wings fully displayed, which are extremely well detailed, particularly on the back. Armed with twin longswords, this is the one to use if you need one. Score: Paint 17, Pose 25, Playability 18, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 85.
There are fallen angels, perhaps the worst being the Death Pact Angel. They pose as benefactors to petitioners, granting favors that must be replayed, always at terrible cost. Fun fact, debts owed to Death Pact angels do not expire at death. It will collect against the petitioner's immortal soul.
We get our only Death Pact Angel in 2018's Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica set. Armed with a golden scythe no doubt used to harvest souls, she stands with ebony wings fully outstretched while her black robes ripple in the wind. All the black really makes the gold of the scythe blade, bodice, and whatever that disc is behind her head stand out. I really like how the curved blade frames her pallid face. Not sure how much use you'll get out of this mini outside of Ravnica, but it is cool. Score: Paint 17, Pose 21, Playability 13, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 74.
Archons are celestial beings that are in the service of all that is lawful and good. While they are always willing to fight any evil creature, they have a particular animus against demons, who they will attack without mercy or quarter. There are several ranks of Archons, who transmute from lesser to greater types as they ascend through the ranks.
The Hound Archon is one of the weakest types, relatively speaking. They are the most common type found on the Prime Material plane, though. WOTC puts our one and only Hound Archon mini in the first set, 2003's Harbinger. Posed on one leg as he leans into the strike with his great two-handed sword, the brown body and canine head are quite nice for an early mini, as is the paint on the loose-fitting blue trousers, held in place with a gold belt, white sash trailing. Score: Paint 17, Pose 18, Playability 14, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 64. Appropriately enough, we get 3 Archons in the Angel Fire set of 2005, starting off with this Justice Archon. As the name implies, they are wholly devoted to upholding justice. The mini is posed about to mete out righteous punishment to the wicked, with its very unusual sword raised above its head, about to strike. The dark wash on the wings really brings out the feathering detail. Bronze armor over a blue tunic complete the look. Score: Paint 16, Pose 13, Playability 13, Pizzazz 16, for a score of 58. Next up is the Sword Archon, who generally lead the armies of Archons into battle against the forces of evil. We again get the standard pose of striding into battle, weapons at the ready, but with the added angelic wings. The skin tone nicely shows off the powerful chest and legs. I'm sure had this mini been produced a few years later, the fiery sword arms would have been made in translucent orange. Score: Paint 19, Pose 13, Playability 13, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 65. Last of the Angel Fire 3 is this Trumpet Archon, who acts as heralds and messengers of the gods. This mini is doing exactly that, trumpeting a message for all to hear. The white robes and wings are striking, with a heavy blue wash on the robes which accentuate every fold. We also get matching blue on the wingtips. Not much in the way of facial detailing, but we do get a bit of scrolling at the tip of the horn. Score: Paint 19, Pose 13, Playability 12, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 59. And now for something completely different. We get this Archon of the Triumphant from 2018's Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica set. The Archon is the humanoid rider. The mount is called a Felidar, basically a flying lion magically bonded to the Archon. Pose flying into battle with Warhammer ready to strike. It's an arresting miniature if not particularly playable. The paint palette is sublime, the purple of the Felidar offset by the dark blue of the Archon's robes, with brown harnessing and saddle matching the armor. Score: Paint 18, Pose 20, Playability 11, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 72.
And with that, we are through with the letter A. We'll be picking things back up next week with the B's and C's, starting with Bladelings. As always, thanks for watching Eye of the Beholder. Please feel free to leave a comment. So, until next week, au revoir.